Hi, Trips99. Yeah, thank you for the question. I just woke up. I ran back to sleep. I was so tired that I guess I've been losing sleep with the mouse ordeal. That I went right back to bed and I just woke up and it's kind of cold in here, so I put the heat on. You had to know what floor was on. Well, it was always on a Saturday because we had no school. And in those days, people didn't work on Saturday all the time. So you had to know, especially like the Jewish people and everything, they weren't open on Saturday. But so the what do you call it? The elevator guy knew what floors were open and who was in the building and who came in. You know, he said good morning. It was a beautiful lobby. You didn't know that there was upstairs. It was lofts like of rows of clothing ready to go to Macy's, ready to go to the warehouses, ready to go to across the country, ready to go to who knows where in the world. All kinds of clothing. And then there were floors that were only for men, or only for women, only for, babies. So when we got to the elevator, man, Nina and my mother made it clear to the man that we are here to get the children, us, from when we were little to when we were teenagers, depending on our age. We were close in age. These are the ones that we want to get the code for. We're not here for us. We're here for these guys. Anyway, so they always told us the floor. And a lot of times you go to the floor and they open the door and they say, no, we're not open. Okay. So we would go back to the elevator and the guy comes up and, Nina, why you put me over here? He's didn't let us in. Okay, I got another floor for you. And I don't know if they were looking for a tip because they didn't give them money tips. I don't know what I don't know. Because I don't know. I don't care. They didn't give them money because they didn't have that kind of money. Okay, we were immigrants. We did not have, my father was a cabinet maker, had his own shop, always working 6 days a week. And Nina's husband was in one of the buildings. I think it was in Park Avenue. And she would clean the buildings at night, the offices at night. But they weren't clothing, they were offices, or like lawyers or whatever. But 7th Avenue was Fashion Avenue. So that's where all the clothes were of the world. And even the stores, if you went down the streets, let's say you're on 7th Avenue and you went down 43rd Street, the fabric stores, we would walk down the fabric stores and we would go into, my mother and Nina both sewed. So they would buy brocade material, beautiful, and make a dress to go to a wedding for them if they knew that. And they always had a wedding. They were always going out. Nina and my mother, we were always left alone by ourselves, all right? Don't open the door. Okay. Nobody ever came to the door. And you couldn't get through the door because the door was like a Frankenstein door. The front door? Forget it. You couldn't. It was metal, I think. I'm thinking it was metal. There was no way you could get in. I remember we wouldn't open the door. So they would buy yards of beautiful material, and every once in a while they would buy us, for us, if we had a dance to go to, like we had Immaculata dances, and the girls' club dances, and just the school dances or party. And in the 60s, it was very simple. It was the shift, as long as it was short. Okay, it could be high collared, it could be long sleeve, but it had to be short. and that was it, and bright. And I remember my mother buying material off of 7th Avenue, like striped, and making us bell bottoms with elastic, but bell bottoms, every color stripe. You like it? Yeah. Okay, what do you like? Yeah. And she would, I don't know how much yards you would buy. We were like this. I was like a size 7. Mercy must have been a size 5. And my sister and Marlene, the same thing. And so they had the what do you call it? The elevator man knew where clothes for us were in the Christmas and Easter, and they were. I mean, you could get lost in these clothes. They were all wrapped in plastic, and then they'd come. You couldn't go through. They brought you stuff. They'd look you up and down like this. They'd guess your size. They always knew. They knew their job. They would look us up and down, and they knew that we all wanted 4 different. Don't bring in. We don't want to look the same. We're it was the 60s or whatever. We wanted to look good. And then sometimes they had hats to go. Sometimes they had bags. But a lot of times we would go to National Shoes, I remember, on 2nd Avenue somewhere. What was it, 34th Street? I can't remember. National Shoes. We would buy a bag and a shoe. It's nylons, new underwear. Oh my, gloves. We had gloves. Going to church. Oh my God. Yeah, that was fun. I don't know if people still do that. Maybe they do. I mean, and the Maltese had the maintenance department locked up in the buildings. So I had friends that their father was a super in 5th Avenue off of Central Park. That's where they grew up. They lived in like a big apartment. Furniture, people throwing out $10,000 sofas saying, Frank, or whatever your name is, Joe or Frank, you take this to the curb unless you, and then Frankie would say, my brother in Astoria needs a couch. Take it. So this $10,000 couch ended up in Astoria. We had furniture because we had a friend, Laurie, his name was Lawrence. And he lived upstairs in apartment 12, I think, or 13. And his kids babysat for us. They were 10 years older than us. Babysat, you know what I mean. They introduced me to Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock Hour, and potato chips on a tomato sandwich. Oh my God. And mayonnaise. I never had mayonnaise. They introduced me when I used to go up there. I used to love to be with them. And their father brought home all kinds of crap. Expensive stuff that these really 5th Avenue people threw out. We had a beautiful lamp, standing lamp behind the sofa where my father sat to watch the boxing. And it had 3, it was orange, white, and blue. Obscure colors. But it was avant-garde. It was so, and it fit so beautiful. I remember that lamp in the living room. It was my favorite piece in the living room. And that was a throwaway. Who knows? It's probably priceless today. You couldn't buy it if you tried, probably. But thanks for the question.